You can go to the Federal Reserve. There's a FRED, which is the Federal Reserve of St. Louis database. They got all kinds of charts. You can find any kind of charts you want. And just look at the debt levels from 1945 till today, and you'll see what's happened. So we don't have the production anymore. Now, I'm not just talking about agriculture. I'm not talking about industrial production here. I'm talking about agricultural production. Farmers can't make a living. The percentage of the pie that farmers get has shrunk more and more and more over the years. So the value of their production has been decreased. Now, that brings us up to today. And the world is changing. A lot of things are changing. The biggest thing that's changing is, you remember those social attitudes I was talking about trusting in central powers, trusting in the government and so forth? People don't trust the corporations anymore. And they're learning that they can't trust their food. Now, I'm not arguing here for the truth or falseness of that proposition. I'm just telling you there are a lot of people who think that. There are an awful lot of them. And it's a small group, it's a small percentage now of the total consuming public, but it's the fastest growing percentage. All right, if you look at consumption of organic food, that part of the market's growing about 20% a year, and it has been for about the last decade or so. So it's going to get larger and larger. The slice of the pie that belongs to people who are concerned about what they eat and do not want processed food, that want clean, wholesome food, that percentage is growing. Add something else to that. I'm not saying, I don't want y'all to go away and say that I said that raw milk will cure asthma. But I'm just telling you about some stories I've heard. Just imagine mama has got a baby who has asthma. I can't imagine what a terrorized life that must be. Because night after night, she's up with that baby. And she doesn't know if he's going to make it till dawn because he's squeezing and gasping and trying to get his breath. And some friend says to her, listen, I don't know if this will work or not, but you're probably desperate enough to try it. I heard that raw milk would help that. She doesn't have anything to lose at this point. So she starts feeding that baby raw milk, and 30 days later, the asthma's gone. Now, what's going to happen next? She is going to get that raw milk for that baby if she has to shoot a cop. She's going to do it. You know that as well as I do. She's going to, because that's the rule of life that mothers protect their children and provide for them. And it's not just this raw milk and asthma thing, okay? It's these women, and you know, I have a lot of respect for women, but especially mothers, boy, when they decide that their family needs something, they're going to get it. It doesn't matter who they have to go over to get it, they are going to get it. And so when they figure out they don't want food that's been sprayed with chemicals, when they figure out I want food that I can trust, where are they going to go? Do you know you're a farmer? Most people don't. Most people ain't got a clue who raised that lettuce that they ate tonight. You don't have any idea at all. And this is where the opening for local agriculture comes in. Because the demand is huge and growing, and people want to know their farmer. We have people who come out just to see our place, just to see, are you really raising the pigs that way? Are they really out on grass? Or have you got a big hog house hidden back here somewhere? They want to see it. They want to know. They want to know the people they're dealing with, and they want to be assured of their integrity. Now, they will pay more for that food. Y'all didn't miss that part, did you? They will pay more for that food. They'll pay twice or 3 times as much for that food. One of the reasons is because they want to know it's safe and that they're feeding good food to their family and it's wholesome and nutritious. The other reason is because they can't get it anywhere else. You know, they just can't get it anywhere else. So what's happened is a person with 60 or 100 acres, a farmer with 60 or 100 acres, who caters to local people, who has local produce, whether it's meat or vegetables, whatever it is, can actually make a decent living, can make actually a 6-figure living, over $100,000 a year. Now, it's not easy, you know, he's going to be working pretty hard, but he can actually make that kind of money. I did the figures, and depending on the price of the milk, a farmer who's milking 7 cows, and that's not a lot of cows if you've ever dealt with cows, a farmer who's milking 7 cows a day can add from $50,000 to $90,000 a year to his cash flow. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. It's a lot more than a lot of these farmers see in a year. So the point I'm trying to make to you is now there is demand that makes local agriculture profitable. There's a reason for people to go back to the land. And I don't know if you've seen it around here. I don't know what the demographics, history of Henry County is, but where I live in Wayne County, the population has been declining for 20 years. Not much, but declining a little bit. And in Lawrence County next door, it's been flat all that time. And I can go back out in the area where I live. There used to be hundreds of people who lived out there. And it's empty now, or they're all retired. So what's happened is, let me just tell you real quickly a little story about Lawrenceburg, which is near where I live. In 1951, Murray Corporation, Murray of Ohio, moved a plant there. Now, they didn't come down there because they were humanitarian. It wasn't because they were philanthropists. It was because we weren't cheap. Just that simple. We weren't cheap. So they came down and they opened this plant because that's the Chamber of Commerce method for dealing with this problem is, let's go outside and bring some industry in here. Let's go outside and get some jobs and bring them in here, and that will solve our problem. And it did solve the problem until Murray went bankrupt in 2007. And all of those jobs that the county had depended on, and not just the jobs of the 1,500 people who by then were working there, but also the jobs of all those people who satisfied their needs, those jobs suddenly disappeared. And so they had a big problem. So you've undergone the same sort of population loss, the same sort of loss of local agriculture. You've undergone all the same sorts of things here. And if the problem, if y'all just think about it a minute, if the problem is centralization of the economy, then the answer must be decentralization. It just can't be possible, it seems to me, that we can't raise and produce milk in Tennessee cheaper than we can go down to Florida 1,200 miles away, or California 2,000 miles away, and ship it in here. I just don't believe that. I don't think we're that dumb. But 10,000 dairies existed in Tennessee 20 years ago. There are 500 today. See, if we could just do one thing, if local farmers could just sell raw milk, which we did for centuries and years and years and years, centuries till memory runneth not to the contrary, local farmers could survive. Now, what does that mean to you? It means that not that I'm expecting everybody to go into farming or even recommending that, but what it means is that dollar of production, that $54 million that right now, every year, you have to go out of your county and find somewhere, scratch up $54 million, bring it back in here, go to Walmart and spend it so it can be sent off to Bentonville, and you can do the whole thing again next year. Instead of doing that, you're going to get some piece of that $54 million that people are spending on stuff they have to buy every day, and you're going to keep it right here in your county. You're going to keep it here. And so that farmer is going to spend that money that he makes with the hardware store and with whoever else he buys from. And so the whole community benefits as you restore a cash flow locally, and you begin to capture those profits that you've been sending out of the county and keep them here, so that you can so that you've got a local economy that suddenly begins to blossom again. Now, I know that I'm probably working against the oldest, I'm going to make the oldest complaint in the world, but one of the problems that we face is greed. We think, well, that's okay, but I'm going to have to pay, I'm going to have to pay more if I'm not buying it at Walmart. I'm going to have to pay more if I'm not buying it at Lowe's. Well, here's the fact. You're not buying the same thing. I'll promise you, when you buy food, you are not buying the same thing at Walmart that you buy anywhere else. I can promise you that. 'Cause I know what goes into the chickens, for example, that we raise, and I know what goes into the pork and the rest of them. So it's not the same thing. But think about this too. The Eighth Commandment says, thou shalt not steal. And everybody understands that. Yeah, that means I can't shoplift and I can't reach in my neighbor's wallet and take the money out. It has a positive part of it too. It has a positive duty that's attached to it, and that duty is that I encourage the welfare of my neighbor, that I encourage the prosperity of my neighbor. That doesn't mean that I impoverish myself to do that, but it does mean that I take all the effort, I make all the effort I can to help my neighbor to prosper. And in doing that, what you're doing is you're trying to build a strong community. You're trying to build a place that is stable and prosperous, where there is economic justice for everybody there, and where everybody gets paid some fair wage in return for what he does for a living. You see what I mean? There has to be a transcendental reason why we do things. We can't just throw every value and all morality out of the boat and say, look, the only thing that's important is just to get that as cheap as I can get it and to get this guy to work for the lowest dollar I can work. Because when you do that, you don't have a world that's worth living in. And you don't have community. And the thing that we need to restore is community. We need that human beings are social creatures. You're social creatures. And you've ever heard of anybody saying living by himself for very long and staying sane? That's because we need each other. We've got to have family, we've got to have community. So, 3 things that I've tried to share with y'all tonight. The first is concentrate on your sphere of control, not your sphere of concern. Second thing is economic power and political power has been centralized in a long